Hi, RPD here. In this video I want to introduce a trick I called Tangle. Tangle is a hybrid between Twisted Sonic and Swift, the trick that I introduced in the previous video of this series. The simplest variations are very easy to learn, so I think that everyone should give it a shot. However, there are many variations and some are incredibly difficult, so spinners that want to do difficult tricks will probably enjoy practicing these as well. The basic ones feel kind of like the 2-pen 1-hand equivalent of Sonic to me. I don't know why, but that's just how it feels. As for the origin of this trick, around September 2020 I found a trick which at the time I called Swap. This is also the trick that I did in my 1000 subscriber special video. Swap has one problem: it's very hard to do consistently. I quickly realized that the reason I couldn't do this trick consistently is because the pens are rotating in parallel planes to each other, and thus they are kind of likely to collide. I started experimenting with different ways of executing this trick, and I found this way in which the pens rotate more parallel to each other. After experimenting a bit more, I was able to refine the execution and improve my consistency, and this trick is what I nowadays call Tangle Around. It's precisely because of this trick that I realized the power of chiral tricks and started studying all variations of Swift, Tangle, and also the tricks that I'm going to introduce in the following videos, like tails, coil, etc. There are 32 variations of this trick. There's 8 variations which I consider the most important ones and which I will be focusing on this video. Then there's 8 mirrored variations which I will only introduce briefly, and then 16 reverses. The reverses are almost a completely different trick. It's the one I called tails, and I'll introduce those in the next video of this series. You can understand this because Tangle is one trick plus another, so it's Twisted Sonic plus Swift, and if you reverse that, then the tricks swap positions. So now you have Swift and then Twisted Sonic. So it's technically a variation of this trick, but it feels mechanically completely different. So that's why I gave it a different name, and that's why I will introduce it in another video. Let's start with the basic variation. To understand the movement of the pens, I recommend you to first help you with your thumb. We're not going to need this afterwards, but at the beginning I think it's useful. Start with one pen in 2-3. Check that the center of the pen is around 2 or 3 centimeters towards the palm side of the hand, and another pen in 1-2, held by the center. Check that the pens are correctly positioned, and now do a Twisted Sonic from 2-3 to T1. From here you can do a Swift from T1-2 to 1-2-3. Now I want you to notice that as long as the 2-3 pen is held in the correct place, there's no need to use the thumb. So yes, what I mean is that you need the center of the 2-3 pen about 2 or 3 centimeters towards the palm side of the hand, so that once it finishes the throw of the Twisted Sonic, more or less the center of the pen is on top of the index finger, so it can balance or suspend on top of the index finger. Well, the idea is that you do this Twisted Sonic. In the end, it's more than a Twisted Sonic, it's kind of like a middle index around, something along these lines, like angled middle index around. But yeah, it's a movement like that. So you do that push, and then once the pen is in here, then you can do the Swift, and the pen will fall into position. Once you understand the movement, you can do it without the thumb. You can see how when the pen becomes suspended on top of one, so like this. If I now do a pass reverse with the pen in 1-2, the top pen just falls into position. This is the key point that I want you to understand, and if you understand this, then you're going to be able to do this and probably most of the other variations. By the way, I will write the initial and final chiralities for all the versions in the screen for those that are interested. I don't want to say them all the time because it's going to get confusing, all of the L's and R's. What you should understand is that all Tangle variations change chirality. So for example, the basic one goes from R to L. So this is R chirality, and if I do a Tangle, now I am in L chirality. So you just should understand that if you do one of these variations, any of them, you're going to go from one chirality to the other. So let's now look at this trick. This trick is what I called tangle around. Instead of doing a twisted sonic for tangle, we will do an inverse twisted sonic reverse. So this. This is just a way of saying that instead of throwing the pen like this, we are going to throw it from the other side of the hand. The idea is that now we are going to hold the pens in more or less the same way, but the center of the other pen is going to go to the other side of the hand. So before it was like this, now it's going to be like this. And if we throw the pen, you will see that it will become suspended on top of one. The center of the pen is going to be on top of one. And then when we do a pass reverse with the bottom pen, then it's going to fall into position. Again, that's the same idea. I want you to notice the difference with the previous trick. In this one, the bottom pen goes around the index finger before getting caught in 1-2. So if we remove the motion of this pen, you can see how in Tangle, this pen does like a fishing. So it does something like this. You see, right? So it's like a fishing. However, in Tangle around, it's just like an around. So it's like this. You can see. You can see it's just like an around. By the way, I wanted to say that there's always two ways in which you can do these tricks. So one is usually easier than the other, but the visuals are different, so you may want to use one or the other depending on your combo. So for example, for Tangle, you have the basic variation, and you also have this variation. You can see that the top pen does more of like an evident fishing than on the other. And for Tangle around, you can do one that's more like an around reverse. And then there's the other, which is more kind of like a back around, like this. The variations start becoming more difficult from this point onwards. To do inverse tangle, hold the pens as follows. Hold one pen in 1-2 by its center, and the other in 2-3 with its center towards the back side of the hand. Check that the pens are correctly positioned, and now go palm down. With the 2-3 pen, you will do an inverse twisted sonic, and again it's going to become suspended on top of the index finger. As this is in this position, then you do a pass normal with the bottom pen, and if you do this correctly, the pens are going to collide and the suspended pen will fall into position. So something like this. For inverse tangle around, start with one pen in 1-2 held by its center and another one in 2-3 with the center towards the palm side of the hand. Check that the pens are correctly positioned. And now you will do a twisted sonic reverse with the 2-3 pen. So this. As the pen is suspended over the index finger, you do a pass normal and the pen will fall into position. Something like this. I find like this trick is easier than the non-around version. I'm sure that everyone watching this video is familiar with the mirrored and inverse reverse modifiers, but maybe not everyone knows Antipodal. So let me explain that. As you can see in this diagram from the notation book, Antipodal is a refraction along the plane perpendicular to your fingers. In the first 4 variations of Tangle, the modes were always perfectly perpendicular, but in the Antipodal versions, the modes are kind of like bunched up. So for example, in Tangle, the modes start in this position, but for Antipodal Tangle, the modes start in like this position. So everything's still chiral and all of the like LR rules that I explained before still apply, but it's just like the pens are kind of like bunched up into that side of the hand. So yeah, to do Antipodal Tangle, hold the pens as follows. You will hold one in 1-2 and then the other in 2-3, again with the center of the pen towards the palm side of the hand. Check that the pens are correctly positioned. And what you will do is that you will do a twisted sonic with the bottom pen. And as it becomes suspended over the index finger, you do a pass reverse with the 1-2 pen. And then rather than colliding, it's just that some space opens up on top for the suspended pen to fall into position. So let me do that again. So you do a twisted sonic, and then instead of colliding, it's just that you can see that some space opens up for the pen to fall into position. For those that have seen the Swift video, I'm sure that you have seen this coming, because in half of the Swift variations the pens collide, and in the other half they don't. So this is just the Tangle version that uses the Swift variation where the pens do not collide. They just leave enough space for the other one to go. To do an antipodal tangle around, hold one pen in 1-2 by its center and another one in 2-3 with its center towards the back side of the hand. Check that the pens are correctly positioned. Again, the pens are going to be kind of like bunched up towards this side, but that's okay. Now you will push the 2-3 pen as if you were doing an around reverse. And as the pen is suspended over the top of the index finger, you will do a pass reverse with the 1-2 pen. And you can see how some space opens up for the suspended pen to fall into position. So again, what we are trying to do is we are trying to do this motion and then this. Like this. So inverse antipodal tangle, despite what the long name may make you think, I actually find this one to be one of the easiest variations. To do it, you will hold one pen in 1-2 by its center and another one in 2-3 with its center on the back side of the hand. Check that the pens are correctly positioned, so like this, and then you go palm down. You will do an inverse twisted sonic with the bottom pen, so this motion here, and as the pen is suspended over the index finger and also kind of over the pen, do a pass normal with the 1-2 pen, and you will see that some space opens up for the suspended pen to fall into position. And yeah, I find this one to be one of the easiest and also very rewarding because the visuals are very different from Tangle and Tangle Around. So yeah, it's interesting to just have variations with different visuals. If you just have one that looks kind of like the easier one, but it's just much harder because it's in a different chirality, it's kind of like not super rewarding to practice and put that into a combo when it's not that obvious. So yeah, I like this variation. Okay, last one, inverse antipodal tangle around. To do it, you will hold one pen in 1-2 by its center and another one in 2-3 with its center towards the palm side of the hand. Check that the pens are correctly positioned, so like this. And then in palm side, push the 2-3 pen until it becomes suspended over the index finger. I find it also helpful to kind of rest it over the mod to stabilize it. And then you will do a pass normal with the 1-2 pen. Some space will open up for the top pen and it will fall into position. So like this. So the videos that you have just seen are some old clips of mine doing 4 of the mirrored variations. Mirrored tangle is doable, the other 3 I have never become consistent in them. There's 4 other variations which are so hard I've never actually done them. I just know how they theoretically would be. In next clips I'll show you with the help of my left hand how each of these 8 mirrored variations are supposed to look like. My personal opinion is not to bother with this until you've mastered the non-mirrored ones. I think the other ones are easier to implement into a combo. Of course, it would be very impressive to also implement the mirrored tangles, but I think it's the next step. It's not the first step. By the way, there's another naming technicality related to mirrored tangle. This is a 10-minute explanation, so I have recorded a separate video explaining it for whoever is interested. I don't think it's too important for the average person, but if you like notation, you're probably going to enjoy that. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you are going to practice these tricks. Thanks for watching.